are taking place, but I want to switch to another forum of sorts. Perhaps we can talk about the US and the policy relating to China, because it does appear that every day it just continues to get worse and worse. China now has, made known, but this has apparently already been ongoing in terms of AMD and Intel for the chips in their computers and potentially Microsoft Windows. Is this a sign of, further tensions to come in your mind? Do you think it's a tit for tat? Or is the US just going to continue aggressively, irrespective of what China does in terms of, chip controls?
I don't think Congress has really thought out clearly the potential impact of increasing the sanctions against China. And I think they're going to proceed pretty rapidly with that, particularly since Trump is obviously a viable candidate for president. So unfortunately, we're on a downward slope on the congressional front and the economic front. I'm heartened that there have been senior meetings on the military side, and also Wang Yi and Blinken on the foreign affairs side, and certainly with the business meetings. And I think China is going to be increasingly interested in trying to play ball, because they have a huge stake in the US dollar system. They cannot walk away from it. The renminbi cannot be used for international trade. They need global exports, particularly because their domestic economy is suffering. So I think we're going to see an increase in the charm offensive, to the point where we may see substantial changes in China's policies. We haven't seen that yet, but we may see that in the future.
Would substantial changes in China policies be more likely under a Trump administration? Because if the economy is as bad as you say it is, and if Trump was so inclined in order to exercise a maximum pressure campaign and really ramp up until, some of the outcomes that the US wants, at the very least, were achieved? Or do you think that that's a non-starter, because China's going to do what China does, irrespective of economic pressure coming from the outside?
Well, it's very hard to predict what Trump's going to do, because we know he's a bit of a wild card. Certainly, the trade sanctions that he imposed in his regime were not effective at all. However, it is true that under the Biden administration, there's been a lot more security relationships between the United States and Southeast and Northeast Asian nations like Japan, that scare the dickens out of Xi Jinping and the top leadership. So from a strategic point of view, Trump may be easier, even though he speaks a harder tone. But Xi Jinping will try to play ball with Trump, kind of mano a mano, in that kind of old bro way that they seem to be encouraging from Trump. And he will hope that will soften the administration if Trump gets into office.
Can I just ask you to that effect in terms of the geostrat and geopol? Because you did flag the improving ties with Japan. We've heard the reporting suggesting that, the US command is going to be improved in Japan instead of having it, based out of Hawaii. So they're going to have more interaction and more ability to conduct exercises and react if there was to be, in kind of issue. And then there's, chatter coming out of the US government at the very least that, it does appear that China could perhaps be priming for some form of an attack on Taiwan by 2027. So if you're a long-term investor, right, and you see all these fears and you see all of these chess pieces moving around in the way that they are, does that make you, or should that dissuade you even further from investing significantly in China if you're, constructing an allocation, more so because of all of these risks?
Well, yes, of course. I mean, you made a lot of different statements there that take a while to unpack. But certainly, first of all, I don't think Xi Jinping will attack in 2027 because it would destroy the Chinese economy. Second thing is, domestically within China, there's a great deal of opposition to Xi Jinping's fairly aggressive foreign policy, for the precise reason that it is encouraging the United States to foster better relations with military relations with countries in Asia. So the whole policy is backfiring for China. So going forward, there's going to be a clash of within the party in China about how to proceed forward and whether to soften the tone or to continue with the wolf warrior diplomacy. So from the investor point of view, I mean, they're seeing all this and they've just washed their hands. I mean, you get some hedge funds that are jumping in, you get some Chinese money that wants to take advantage of short-term flows, or you're doing private equity in AI or something like that, sure. But the big money in corporates and in retirement funds is not touching China for at least a year, if not much longer.
Do you think it's forever, really quickly? That pensions don't come back?
No, I mean, I've been dealing with China since I was there in '83, and I've seen a lot of different cycles. And I personally, knowing China fairly well, that there is going to be a softening of tone over time, either under Xi or with the next leadership.
Andrew, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it, as always.